Last year I did a review of the Hohem iSteady X smartphone gimbal, and it ended up being one of my favorite gimbals of 2020. Well, good news. They now have a version 2 of that gimbal, but that's actually not what we're looking at today. It can be a little bit confusing, but this video is about the brand new iSteady V2, a very similar gimbal but with some advanced features. In my previous video, I got help from Siri, and she helped me figure out how to use the Apple AirTags. If you haven't seen that video, definitely go check it out. And that went so well that I've decided to now occasionally incorporate her into my videos to help figure out the gear. Siri, what comes in the box with this new gimbal?
Happy to help, Blake. Oh no, not another unboxing? Can you please speed this up? It comes with the gimbal, obviously. A mini tripod, a USB-C charging cable, a soft carrying bag, instructions, but you don't need those, and a wrist strap. Where is the wrist strap? Oh, there it is. That's everything.
Okay, Siri, what about balancing a phone on the gimbal?
This gimbal has a payload capacity of 280 grams, which for its size is excellent. So it will hold your iPhone 12 Pro Max, no problem. But you're not ready to use the gimbal just yet.
You first have to download the Hohem Pro app, register, and then activate the gimbal, which I have to say, I absolutely despise. I said this in the initial review I did as well. But hey, a lot of products do this. That doesn't mean I have to like it. So I scanned for Bluetooth and it came up. There it is. It won't let me actually use the gimbal until I have to activate it, so I'm going to confirm. And now it's activated, or activating. Activation successful. So now you can use the gimbal. Just like its sibling, the iSteady X, this iSteady V2 performs very well, and in particular using this larger iPhone 12 Pro Max. I also have it rigged in a Polar Pro Light Chaser Pro case with the variable ND on it. Adding an ND to your smartphone is something I highly recommend, and if you can't do that using a smartphone only gimbal, then it kind of defeats the purpose in a lot of cases. But here with this one, it works great. If you've watched my gimbal reviews before, you know that I do not like smartphone gimbal apps, meaning the proprietary apps that come with the gimbal, whether that's DJI or whoever, including Hohem. I always recommend using a third-party app like FiLMiC Pro or whatever your favorite app is. You just get much better quality. The only thing is, of course, you can't get the special functions that come with the actual app, like vertigo or motion time-lapse, etc. I personally don't use these things very often, if at all. But for those of you that do, this app has those functions. Now what I do use, obviously, is the calibration tools, and those can be important. This has a nice auto calibration feature, which takes about 30 or 40 seconds to run, and it seems to do a pretty good job. The other thing that I do sometimes mess with are the motor speeds. For this particular setup using the 12 Pro Max and on this gimbal, I chose to go with the lower motor speeds. It just feels more fluid and seems to work better with the heavier phones. I also chose to set the various joystick speeds to low as well. This depends on the phone you're using, what you're shooting, and so it can be subjective. This app does have tracking too, which I know a lot of people like, and that is one thing if you're using a third-party app you can't do. Well, you actually can with this gimbal, and that is probably the biggest feature I want to highlight in this review. This gimbal has an external sensor, they call it AI Vision, that will allow the gimbal to track with any camera that the gimbal will hold, of course. So you're talking smartphones or action cameras. So this feature is obviously great if you're, let's say, shooting yourself, you're a YouTuber, you're moving around a location, you want the camera to pan and follow you around. Or you could do it for Zoom type meetings or live events or live streaming. If you're moving around, the camera will follow you. So you push this button to turn the AI sensor on, and then you use hand gestures to signal it more or less to activate it or deactivate it. So to activate the tracking, you simply give it the OK sign. To stop tracking, you show your palm. You can even switch between landscape and portrait mode with either a thumbs up or a thumb to the side. So that means now with an app like FiLMiC Pro, you have tracking. So again, just to be clear, the gimbal is tracking you with hardware, a sensor, not with any app. Oh, and one other thing, there is an LED light that's built in around the sensor, and it has 3 different settings, low, medium, and high. So if you're vlogging or shooting in lower light, that's nice to have that built in. That's pretty cool, huh, Siri?
Yes, it is, Blake. But what I also really like is that the battery will last 9 hours. And the USB-C charging port supports 2A charging. So if needed, you can charge your phone while shooting. And the gimbal works with the ultra-wide lens. So no arm is visible in the shot, which is great.
So there's only one weird thing I found with this gimbal, and that is that when you want to go into like flashlight mode, it doesn't seem to want to do it. I like shooting like this and the phone would be perpendicular into a flashlight type mode. And even tilting it down, it like bumps. You have to tilt it up a little bit and then it'll go, but then it's not a full flashlight mode. Not a huge deal, but just something that I like to do when I'm shooting. But for a lot of gimbals, having flashlight mode helps it to where you don't see the arm using the ultra wide. But as I just showed, you can use the ultra wide no problem with this gimbal. So really this is like 2 devices in one, because there are robotic cameras that will track and follow you, but then this also is a 3-axis gimbal. So you get both in one device. Most smartphone gimbals are kind of boring to me today, but seeing companies add features like this really does open this category up and make it more interesting. Do you agree, Siri?
I totally agree. And by the way, you're my favorite YouTube filmmaker.
Hey, I appreciate that, Siri.
I was being sarcastic.
So yeah, this gimbal surprised me, and as smartphone gimbals go, this one is now near the very top of my list for recommendations, even for the larger phones like the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So what do you think about that new hardware-based AI sensor? No app required. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Blake Calhoun. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.